Welcome, Kindreds, it's Jessica. I'm an astrologer and I've been journeying with the moon for over 20 years. In this video, I'm inviting you to journal with me as I set up my pages for the Aries New Moon Eclipse that we're having at the end of March. As we'll go, I'll share what Aries new moons mean, the specific energy of this lunation, and I'll pull some tarot cards for a collective reading. So grab your journal, your favorite supplies, maybe a warm drink, and let's get started. For this journaling session, I'll be using my free Aries New Moon Guide, which you can download using the link in the description and in the pinned comment. It's filled with prompts, reflections, and key themes to help you connect with this moon's energy. I'm going to be creating 2 double page spreads because I felt like with this being an eclipse, there was too much to squeeze into one. Feel free to follow along, adapt these ideas, or create something completely your own. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, which means Aries season brings the astrological new year. Happy New Year! A fresh start, a spark of new energy. If we think of the zodiac as a cycle, this is the moment of initiation, of stepping forward boldly. Aries ruled by Mars, the planet of action and courage. So Aries new moons carry a strong, fiery momentum. So this is a time to set intentions that feel bold, instinctive, and true to who you are without overthinking it. It's about trusting yourself, moving forward, even if you don't have all the answers yet, especially if you don't have all the answers yet. The answers will come as the journey unfolds. So as I start this journal, I'm thinking about where in my life do I need to trust my instincts? What do I want to initiate or reclaim? If you're following along, you might want to jot down your own thoughts on what a fresh start looks like for you. Before I start putting my own reflections down, I just wanted to set up the kind of bones of my pages. So I've added a title and I'm making a little moon and I'll put a bit of washi tape on just to kind of get the frame of the page ready to hold all of my thoughts about it when I start the actual writing section. If you know your astrological rising sign, you can get even more insight into how this Aries new moon might show up for you. In the free Aries New Moon Guide, which I've linked below, I've included a breakdown for every house and the life area that this new moon is activating for each rising sign. For me, Aries is my 7th house. So this new moon is bringing up themes of relationships, partnerships, and how I show up in those like one-to-one intimate connections. If you're an Aries rising, then this new moon would be in your 1st house, making it especially personal about your identity, self-image, new beginnings, even more so than just the general Aries new beginnings. And if you're a Cancer rising, it would be in your 10th house, which would bring a fresh start in your career or your public life, some bold action in those areas of your life. And, for all the other rising signs, you can take a look at the guide and see which area of life this new moon is activating for you. And you can use that then as inspiration for your journaling and also for your kind of like your goal setting and the plans you want to make for this moon cycle. This new moon is not just any new moon, it's also a solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse, but still an eclipse, which amplifies its energy and potential for new beginnings. Eclipses often act as catalysts, bringing about significant shifts and illuminating areas of our lives that require attention. So to fully grasp the importance of this eclipse, it's really good to look back at this sequence of eclipses that we've had in this Aries-Libra axis. This is actually the final Aries eclipse that we're going to be having in this axis. So I'm taking extra note of this. On April 20th, 2023, we had our first solar eclipse at 29 Aries, which was the beginning of this cycle. So if you can cast your mind back to like April 2023, that is when this all started. And then October 14th, 2023, we had a solar eclipse at 21 Libra. So we always have the eclipses falling in the opposite signs, in the pairs of signs. So it's been falling in Aries, Libra, and Aries and Libra. Emphasizing, when we have Libra eclipses, I emphasize themes related to relationships and balance because that is connected with Libra. And then on March the 25th, 2024, we had a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Libra. So further highlighting that theme of harmony in partnerships. And then April the 8th, 2024, you probably remember that one. That was a total solar eclipse taking place at 19 degrees Aries, encouraging bold new beginnings. And it really did feel like a a threshold crossing, that kind of like central eclipse in this sequence. And then October the 2nd, 2024, so the sort of autumn of last year, we had a solar eclipse at 10 degrees of Libra, which continued that focus on like the relational dynamics. Like I said, these eclipses kind of ping back and forth between the pairs of signs that are involved. And then March 29th, 2025, which is where we are now, or heading towards that now, we've got this solar eclipse at 9 Aries, which is the final eclipse in this Aries-Libra series. So like I said, this sequence began when the lunar nodes, which are the points that indicate where we get eclipses in astrology, they moved into that Aries Libra axis. And that happened way back in July 2023. And so that shift started this whole 18-month period where the focus has been on finding that balance between self-assertion in Aries with collaboration and harmony. And as we've been having like the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra, it has tended to be more about our own kind of personal power and how that interplays with collective power, with harmony, with balance, with other, those themes of self and other, which I've been talking about so much while we've been going through these eclipse cycles, has, we have really, really seen that. So as we approach this final Aries solar eclipse, it's a brilliant moment to reflect on those themes that have emerged since, like mid 2023. Consider how the interplay between independence and partnership has manifested or changed in your life. What lessons have you learned about asserting yourself, keeping your own boundaries of self while also maintaining or starting harmonious relationships? So following this eclipse, the nodes, which have already shifted in that Pisces Virgo axis, which is why this is the last Aries eclipse, that's going to be bringing a whole new set of themes around spirituality, service, practical idealism. I spoke about this back in the Virgo full moon video. So this transition signifies a collective move towards integrating our dreams and reality and finding balance between our spiritual aspirations and everyday responsibilities. But we are still, this is the last eclipse in that Aries Libra cycle. So we are in this period of like wrapping up, reflecting what has happened over this past, like almost 2 years, where we've been working on those themes of self and other. This eclipse is our like final moment to kind of step through the threshold and really take charge of ourselves. Really, how are we going to be despite all the kind of like world crazies that is going on? And I have got a couple of journal prompts for you, and like depending on where these eclipses have fallen for you, if you look in the guide and you see where your rising sign is, you can see that. You may want to kind of adapt these slightly, but just generally, I've got some questions which are: how have I navigated the balance between my personal desires and my relationships since July 2023? So, like taking into consideration that whole eclipse season. And then in what ways have I grown in asserting my individuality, myself, while fostering harmony with others? And what intentions can I set for this Aries new moon eclipse to honor both my independence and my connections? And my hope is that by contemplating these questions, you can align yourself with this transformational energy of this eclipse, bringing, the closure of this cycle. And then we can step into that Virgo Pisces eclipse cycle that we've already started, with our Virgo full moon that we had just a couple of weeks ago. For me, these eclipses have been falling in my first and seventh houses. So there's been a lot of that self other theme, even more emphasized than just because it's Aries and Libra. And also my own nodal axis as well I have my nodes in Libra and Aries. So this has been a really like tumultuous, kind of towery period of time for me. But so I'm kind of glad that it is coming to a close. But how has it been for you? Maybe I've seen quite a lot of people who have being able to step a little bit more into themselves with this, with the North Node being in Aries. As I finished setting up this first page and finding my own questions for reflection, I wanted to quickly mention the supplies I'm using in case you're curious. I know otherwise people will definitely ask me. So I'm working here in my Notebook Therapy Suki B5 notebook, which is the larger size. I love that larger size because it gives me plenty of space for journaling and, like getting a little bit more creative. The paper's also quite thick in this within this notebook, which I really appreciate as well, because I do make things like little tabs and stuff like that, which is why I tend to cut the edges of my pages. I like to use Tombow brush pens along with some other things. I got like stickers, a sticker book, washi tape, and a few extra embellishments. Quite a few of the things though here I have just kind of pulled from the new moon guide. So if you know, you don't have to buy anything. I think sometimes that can be like a barrier for people when they are starting to journal. It's like I have to have all of this stuff, but you really don't. You know, you can find a colored pen, a pen, or you know, just a regular pen if you want to. But if you are interested in what I'm using, I'll make sure I link everything in the description box. But yeah, like I said, you don't need anything fancy. A journal and a pen are more than enough to get started. And if, you know, journaling is new to you, I've got lots and lots of videos here on my channel about journaling, you know, particularly like journaling with the moon, kind of witchy journaling, because that is what I do. I've also got a course actually available as well, Sacred Pages, which is like a 21-day kickstart into journaling if you don't have a journal practice. So I'll link that in the description box down below as well. So here I am just adding a couple of journal prompts specifically about the eclipse to the bottom of this page. I'm going to fill these in when, you know, just as we're heading into that new moon. I'm setting this up a little bit in advance. So I'm going to look at how has this eclipse cycle changed me? What have I learned? And what am I leaving behind now as I cross the eclipse portal? Because this is the final eclipse in this cycle. Now that I've set up that first spread, let's move on to journaling about this specific Aries new moon eclipse and look at what makes it unique. So for this, I've printed out the lunation chart from my honeycomb almanac. A lunation chart is essentially a birth chart for the moon at the moment of this new moon. I love using it as a visual reference for the planetary alignment. I'll link the honeycomb down below in case you're interested. It is an amazing resource. I've got videos about that as well, but I am going to go through as well and explain, you know, everything that is on this chart so that you've got the energy, even if you're not an astrologer or you don't want to, you know, dive really deep down that rabbit hole. I'm also continuing to use my Aries New Moon Guide as inspiration, pulling out the keywords, journal prompts, and some rituals to help shape this spread. So, you know, if you do want that as inspiration for your spread too, you can find that in the description and the pinned comment. So yeah, as I start setting up this page, I really want to focus on this particular Aries new moon, the aspects of this moon and how that energy might show up in our lives in this cycle. One of the most striking things about this lunation is this pileup of planets in Aries and Pisces, this gathering of energy around the highly sensitive transition point between the last and the first signs of the zodiac. This is significant because Pisces represents ending, dissolution, surrender, while Aries is all about bold beginnings, action, initiation. So right now we have Saturn, the North Node, Venus retrograde, and Neptune all sitting in Pisces, with Neptune at 29 degrees, the final anaretic degree of the sign. This highlights that sense of closure, uncertainty, or deep soul level shifts. And then at the same time in Aries, we have Mercury retrograde at 0 degrees, another anaretic degree at the start of that sign. And then the Sun and the Moon together at 9 degrees Aries and Chiron at 22 Aries. So this means we're at this threshold moment. Mercury and Venus are moving back and forth over this cusp before some of the slower moving planets cross later in 2025. It's like these personal planets are underlining this space, highlighting it, drawing attention to the transition that we're collectively moving through now. And then Mars, which is the ruler of this eclipse, as is an Aries eclipse, is at 22 Cancer, loosely trine Venus and Neptune. And then we've got Jupiter sitting at 15 Gemini, with Uranus then at 24 Taurus, also forming a loose sextile to Venus, Neptune, and Mars. And then Pluto at 3 Aquarius is also connecting to that Mercury and Neptune via a sextile. So overall, the aspects are mostly harmonious, yet this new moon doesn't feel particularly light or carefree to me. There feels like a really deep significance to this moment. You know, March has been like a really big month, astrologically speaking, in a really huge pivotal year, astrologically speaking as well. You know, we've got this tension between Aries wanting to forge ahead, but then Pisces reminding us that before we can do that, there's something that needs to be released or healed or integrated first. In order to work on that idea of like release, I wanted to take some journal prompts. I adapted these from the New Moon Guide to make them a little bit more personal to me. And I've decided to go with what bold beginning is calling me now? What steps can I take to bring that to life? How can I reclaim my confidence? How can I trust my instincts? Very Aries coded instincts. What fears are holding me back? Kind of going back into that Pisces area. And then how can I take action on this? And supportive action, because Mars is in Cancer. There does need to be some kind of nurturing, nourishing, supportive action that will help to kind of bring us forward now. So those prompts may work for you, or you may want to pull out slightly different prompts depending on where this eclipse is falling for you, the themes and things that are being activated. But the main idea is to try and find the prompts that will help you to kind of figure out the areas that are holding you back, and then be able to bring forward the action, really, that Aries Mars initiated action that is going to move you forward at this moment in time. Now that we've journaled through the themes of this Aries New Moon Eclipse, I want to focus on ritual. I generally avoid overt spell work during the eclipses because the energy can be kind of unpredictable, but you do you. I'm choosing a ritual that connects to the equinox when the sun moves into Aries, and I'm going to focus on candle magic. Very coded into that Aries cardinal fire energy. And I'm also going to make a Mars coded commitment to my body by joining the gym. Not my favorite thing, but Aries moves movement, strength, taking action. And I know I do always feel better when I'm physically strong. These ideas evolved out of the New Moon Guide, but your ritual might look completely different. Maybe you'll be more drawn towards the release, letting go of something before stepping into the next cycle. Or maybe you do feel ready for like a bold initiation, marking a fresh beginning in a way that feels meaningful to you. Tune into what you need in this moment. For this journal ritual together, I'm going to pull us some cards for our collective way forward in this new moon eclipse that we are facing now. I'm going to use this Wild Unknown Tarot by Kim Krans. It does come in like a big box like this, but I tend to, as you can see, it's a bit faded. When I first got this deck, I used to use it all the time, and lately I haven't reached it quite as much, but I just felt like it was very on point with, well, I suppose kind of with the color palette that I've used for the spread, but also this time that we find ourselves in now, this shedding. We've got this snake skin on the back of it. I'm going to take a card for the energy of this month, and then one for what we should focus on and one that we should avoid. And then I think I might pull one from an oracle deck as well if we need that. So this is our energy, the energy of this month. Okay, and we've got Son of Pentacles. So that translates to the Knight of Pentacles. And we've got this kind of like slow and steady energy, which is interesting. And look at this, that pentacle, it almost looks like a kind of eclipse, the way that we have got that up here as well. Really interesting. So, sometimes the temptation can be with when we have like a Mars, like a Mars ruled eclipse, or any new moon as we have now with this eclipse, we can tend to want to kind of charge forward. And I feel like what this card is saying is that like we may want to do that, and we might feel like we should be doing that, but perhaps the energy is not going to feel quite as fast. And I think like looking at the astrology as well, it does look like that. It looks a little bit less fiery, and it does look a little bit more like, not necessarily earthy, but it does look a bit slower, a bit more like we're starting. This is not just like kind of walking through a door and slamming it. We are like literally stepping into a whole new age now in this year. And so it's not like we're going to just like get into hyper speed. We're not jumping to hyper speed straight away. We need to kind of like build up to that. So I feel like that's going to be the energy, is more of that kind of like slow and steady towards something that we are moving towards, which will be good for me, especially on that join the gym. I'm not going to like plow in there. I'm going to take it a little bit slower than that. So what's the advice? Oh, okay. And we've got another Pentacles card as well. And we've got the 10. And that's really, really beautiful. I love this card. There's some really kind of dark cards in this deck, but this is one of those ones that is, you know, really, really gorgeous. We've got that collection of energy, that focus of energy all together. Like the 10 of Pentacles brings us to that kind of completion point. So what we should be focusing on is like the stuff that nourishes us, the stuff that nurtures us. You know, I feel like I say it all the time but it is so important. It is our self-care, you know, like really focusing on our strength, you know, that is, I knew that's what I need to be focusing on. But also, like, you know, the things that our food, our strength, the people, the community, you know, look at that gathering of pentacles there, you know, it's those people that we are together with. And also, you know, like definitely like more zoomed out, bigger picture thinking, you know, it's not like, oh, is this something that I want just for now? No, you know, we're looking now at the bigger picture, the whole kind of like epoch that we are moving into. And let's see what to avoid. Interesting. So we've got Father of Swords. So that is our King of Swords, you know, King of Air. And so the energy to avoid is that kind of very up in our heads, kind of analytical energy. I really like, you know, the fact that the other cards are Pentacles, it is suggesting that we need to kind of drop down into the body and be in our bodies much more, leading from what we feel, from what we know that we need, rather than like, I should be doing this now, this is the best strategy, you know, strategy, plan. It's we may not necessarily have the full picture to have that very that analytical way forward right now. You know, we have got two planets retrograde in this. You know, we've got Pisces, we've got Venus and Mercury are both retrograde when we're having this eclipse. So it's not about pushing forward or planning or having those kind of like long-term visions necessarily right now. It is much more about steady steps, doing the next important thing, doing the work to kind of keep ourselves nourished, ourselves strong and healthy, and just keep moving towards what it is. You know, we are walking through, it's more like a tunnel, I feel like, than a portal. You know, like I say, when you feel like you're walking through a portal, through a door, it's just like, oh, a step over the threshold, done. That is not what this eclipse is about. It feels more like a tunnel. And, you know, as you walk into the tunnel, your eyes, you know, you can't see so well. And then you start to be able to see that kind of like light coming in up ahead. And you have to go further and further and further until it kind of like opens up. We're not at that opening up light at the end of the tunnel phase yet. You know, we are working our way through there. And the way that we're going to get through that is by really focusing in on what is important to us, what is valuable to us, our core values, ourself, our health, our well-being, also our finances, you know, looking at that moving forward as well. So I did pull out this deck, which I haven't I find this a bit of a fluff deck, to be honest. But I felt like we might need it for this cycle. So let's take one just for fun. Let's take one from here. This is just like kind of like cute messages in this deck. So I'll give them a little shuffle. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but it is just a bit, like I say, a little bit fluffy sometimes. But sometimes you need a bit of fluff, you know, a bit of softness. So that is why I got it out. So let's see and I'll link these decks down below as well if you're interested in them. See what our message is. Okay. So we've got, my capacity to tune in to the energy of love gives me the words I need when I'm ready to speak up, the compassion I need when it's time to forgive, and the power I need when I am lost. Wow. So actually that is very on point with this stuff. So it's my capacity to tune into that energy of love will give me the words when I'm ready. It sort of talks about you know, like I was saying, like we're not quite there yet, but when we are there, it's that capacity to tune into love, you know, love, compassion, and the real kind of like tangible things in our lives that are going to hold us, to move us forward in this moment. It's not about being like kind of intellectually strategizing. It is about that energy of love, giving the words, giving the compassion, and giving that power. You know, this is a Mars ruled eclipse, so we do need that power. When we do, like, we can get lost a little bit in Pisces because it's just so numinous, you know. Yeah, that's actually really, really beautiful. So I hope that you found this journal session fun, that you are journaling. If you're not done journaling with your spreads yet, I did like cut this video down a little bit to make it like not super, super long. I will link some other journaling videos like here. So if you want me to kind of carry on rabbiting on while you carry on with your journal spreads, you can watch some other videos, some of the journal videos. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on this new format for these new moon videos, and let me know in the comments, and also like your thought on what is coming up for this eclipse with you and these cards. Thank you so much for being here. Warmest blessings, and I will see you very soon.